Hostile drone detected.
That's 1.7 million armor in like 2 seconds.
Agent down. Agent down.
If the enemy doesn't turn this around, they'll be pulled out.
Serious trauma detected.
Dude, that was one. You see that armor? That was 1.7. Broke his unbreakable and almost killed him.
No one's retreating. The fight continues. There are no more road uniforms.
Vital signs quick.
1.7 with unbreakable, right? I mean, he probably didn't have unbreakable there.
Victory is yours.
12-1, GG's. All right, let's back up. So we start off this build with the Tinker Mask. And the reason why I'm going to start off with this piece in particular is because this is where this build gets really powerful, the Tinker Mask. And the reason why, it's because it allows you to run 2 weapon talents on 1 weapon. Because of a talent called a bridge. If your primary and secondary weapons are not exotic or named and of the same type, meaning they are both assault rifles, both SMGs, both LMGs, well, the secondary weapon talents will also be applied to the primary. It does not apply to primary or secondary weapon talents include weapon swapping. It does not apply to weapon talents that are of the same. So you can't stack 2 flat lines, 2 streamlines. It doesn't work like that. It has to be 2 different talents, and it can't be anything that you need to weapon swap. And the reason why this doesn't work is because weapon swapping will deactivate the way a bridge works. You need to make sure that the weapon you want to use is always in slot number 1, and the weapon that you don't want to use is in slot number 2. But the talent that you do want for your primary weapon is going to be in slot number 2, and then you'll have both here. As we have this Police M4, and we have Flatline, and then we have this CTAR, and we have Streamline. So that's kind of how you guys want to do that. Now, the great thing about the Tinker Mask, it comes all red. So it already has weapon damage, crit chance, and crit damage. Exactly what you guys will be looking for. We also have a critical hit damage mod on here. So that way we're going to get 11% more critical hit damage. Do not judge my mods on this build, as this character right here is my newest account on PC that I've been messing with to just show players the process of grinding. Now, when you pair the Tinker Mask with the Umbra Initiative, it really creates a nice little synergy. Because the way the Umbra Initiative works is the 2 piece is going to give you 15% critical hit chance. The 3 piece is going to give you that 30% reload speed. But the 4 piece is where Umbra Initiative really shines, especially in conflict. So while you're in cover, you're going to gain 10 stacks per second up to 50. So 50 stacks max. So what that means is each stack will give you 1.2% critical hit damage. That means at max stack, you could have 60% critical hit damage. Now, you also gain 0.4% RPM, which at max stacks will give you 20% extra RPM, which is pretty insane. Now, the buff does not apply while shooting from cover. So what you need to do is go into cover, build a stack, and then you can run around, kill, go back into the cover. While you're out of cover, agents lose the stack, 2 stacks per second, and 1 stack per second if you're sprinting. Now, the cool thing about this is, though, when you are out of cover and you're in combat, you gain 10 stacks per second up to 50. Each stack will give you 0.8% armor regen when you consume this. To consume it, you need to get into cover, which is kind of cool. Now, stacks do consume 10 stacks per second only in cover. So once you're in cover, that's when you'll get that. You can actually regen really well with this build and not have to burn through med kits. Now, how we're going to increase all of this is because we are going to be running the chest piece. And the reason why is because the chest piece, what it does is it increases max stacks from the shadows from 50 to 100, and the stack gain from 10 to 20. So what that means is you are going to be gaining, while in cover, you gain 20 stacks per second up to 100, which is a game changer because you're gonna have 120% critical hit damage, not just 60%, and then you're gonna have 40% RPM, which that alone makes this a deadly combo because we're going to be shredding with this build as you guys saw in the gameplay. So that's going to be our first piece of Umbra. We're going to have weapon damage, critical hit damage, and critical hit chance mod. For our holster, we're going to have our second piece of Umbra initiative with weapon damage and critical hit damage. For our third piece of Umbra initiative, we're going to have our knee pads with weapon damage, critical hit chance. For our fourth piece of Umbra initiative is going to be our gloves. We have weapon damage and critical hit damage. Now for our backpack, we do have the Fenris backpack. This is going to give us 10% assault rifle damage. We have weapon damage, headshot damage, critical hit damage. Ideally, I would like to have critical hit chance here, but again, I just don't have all the pieces that I would like to on this character, so I'm going with headshot damage, and we have a critical hit damage mod. And then we do have vigilance, so you increase total weapon damage by 25%. Now, taking damage disables this buzz for 4 seconds. So ideally, this is exactly what you want. For our weapons, which really make this build all come together because we are running the Tinker Mask, we are going to be running the Police M4. And this is going to have 850 RPM, 50 in their magazine, 85% headshot damage. You're going to see we're sitting at total damage of 112%. We go down here. We have assault rifle, health damage, and then damage to targets out of cover on this one. And then we have the talent flatline, amplifies weapon damage by 15% to pulse enemies. After 4 kills, it applies pulse to the next enemy you hit. Now, if you guys run against any players who are running pulse resistance builds, what you could do is you could swap this out for something like measured, or you guys can decide, but you guys can just swap that out easily. So we do have, for our rail, we do have 5% on the optics. We have 20 rounds in the magazine. We do have the link laser pointer because we are going to be running technician class so that way we can pulse enemies without having to run a pulse because we're going to be running streamline. And then we have a critical hit chance muzzle, which is really good on this build. For our secondary, it doesn't matter what you have here, but you do want to have the talent streamline because that's going to increase total weapon damage by 42%. But I'm going to show you guys what it looks like when you guys are in PvP. So let's go to normalize stats and then let's back up. And it's going to be 32% in PvP in conflict. So you're getting 32%. So just keep that in mind, but still really good on this Police M4. As I mentioned, we are going to be running the Technician class because this allows us to have the link laser pointer which pulses enemies. Now for our crit chance, we are at 52% crit chance. This is where I would like to have another crit chance on that bag instead of the headshot damage, because if I do lose the 10%, because you remember your watch does not count in conflict. In conflict, you lose the watch, that's 10% crit chance, so you're 10% less. We have 127% crit damage, 85% headshot damage, 20% health damage, and then we have that 10% damage to targets out of cover on the build. But overall, this is the build. This is how I would like to have it. The one thing I would like to do is switch that headshot damage. And then for the skills, you're not going to be running any skills because you are going to be running streamline and doesn't allow you. But in conflict, that's the great part. We don't need it. But yeah, this is the build right here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know. See you in the next one. Hey, nothing but skills out.